cafe anyway. Hello, it's Mike. Welcome to the show.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Had a great time yesterday seeing a fan.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Of the podcast. His name is Kevin. And we enjoyed the day together. No, actually, he's employed by a beer maker, so he had to work on a Saturday. People want to drink lots of stuff, and then they were
Mike's Daily Podcast
leaving. But hopefully they were sober, or they had a sober driver is what I'm trying to say.
Mike's
See, at Cafe Anyway,
Daily
all we serve is root beer.
Podcast.
Because everyone loves root beer oh so much.
Yeah.
And so it is such a beloved beverage. No, I got to see Kevin. And Kevin used to do a segment on the show called Addendum with Kevin. You have to go way, 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 way back. And being that this is episode 2391, you'd have to go back before maybe to the episode 1000 or maybe episode 562 or something like that. But way back is when he was on. So it's good to see him. It had been almost 2 years since I last saw him. And the last time I saw him, he was at a different brewery. Now he's at Almanac, which is in Alameda, and it's beautiful. It's got all this outdoor room. You can be outside, and then you're not too far, just a couple blocks from the bay and the USS Hornet, and it's this huge decommissioned Navy base, and there's just in fact, they used to film Mythbusters out there before they started building stuff on it again. Hey, and I'm not getting a plug for or anything in return for saying this about the food trucks, but they were pretty good. And the beer was great. And I had 4 beer.
And here's today's podcast picture.
That's the pluralization, isn't it? 4 beer? And I have to say, and not all at once. It was over, I was there for quite a while, probably like 6 or 7 hours. So it was divvied up. Had a ride home. My lovely lady friend picked me up. And I got there with the help of Bart, and they picked me up, Kevin and his lovely lady friend. And there's the late great Basil the Boxer. And I actually walked around this area with him years and years ago. But there was not all this stuff. All this stuff has been built up since I was last there with Basil. So it was very nice to see it. Spent the day. They have a lounge area with a fake fireplace that keeps you warm somehow. I don't know. It's magic. And he and I discussed all kinds of things, Kevin and I, how he saw David Tell in concert and actually met him. He's a comedian who's about my age, maybe a little older, and tells it like it is. Even to those wokesters in the audience that were not so happy to hear what he was saying. Apparently he told a bunch of young ladies, hey, don't you need to get back on the set of Euphoria? So that was... And he said, apparently whenever he opens his mouth, something funny comes out. Unlike me, I just have musings that come out of my mouth. That's about it. But I will say I did not have a hangover from any of the wonderful beer that I had at Almanac. Unlike some people who have what is called hangxiety. Anxiety from a hangover? Yes. Apparently, it happens to those... Because you're basically, getting the nausea, the headache, the fatigue. And then there's anxiety during a hangover. Anxiety during a hangover affects around 12% of people and can vary in severity depending on the person. As a body recovers from a night of drinking, a hangover creates a state of physiological stress. Generally speaking, physiological stress happens when the body is under pressure, such as from an illness or an injury. A hangover kind of works the same way. Not only does it cause changes to our immune system, it also increases cortisol levels. That's the stress hormone. as well as blood pressure and heart rate changes, which also happen with anxiety. The brain also experiences changes involving dopamine, the brain activity. Dopamine is a type of neurotransmitter. It's lower during a hangover. Dopamine plays an important role in regulating anxiety. So that's why anxiety, the heightened stress during a hangover, can also make it difficult for someone to cope with any additional stress that may happen throughout the period. This according to CNN.com. Yes, did you hear the liberal slant, the bent of the liberality happening as I was speaking to you just then? And the writer of that, the ultra liberal Craig Gunn from the University of Bristol, which is so liberal. They're all there with their liberalties, going all liberal-ish. Liberals. The left. If you don't catch the fact that I'm making fun of how people paint CNN, then I'm going to point it out there. I'm making fun of them, of the people that say that about CNN. Because, hey, there is some information here. I believe, I don't know if I've ever experienced anxiety. I did not have a hangover, though, with this beer. I do not drink that often. In fact, this is probably going to be it for the year. It's usually all done in one moment. In fact, the last time I saw Kevin, I drank way too much, and I had a, a sour. And that, for some reason, mixed with regular beer, made me sick. So after that, I was like, no beer for, I think, all of 2020 and 2021. So here we are, 2022. And part of it was I hadn't seen Kevin in a long time, and plus all the stuff I'm going through with my mom. And just, after her passing, it's been tough. So I needed a little something. I had to let my hair down. The hair that I don't have, had to let it down. Instead of pulling the hair out, I had to just let the hair down. If you're someone who experiences anxiety, the same technique that helps with anxiety will be useful. This includes meditation, practicing mindfulness, and self-care. Planning ahead of your night out to make sure you have the following day free to recover and avoid other stressors, such as work and family problems, may also deal with the additional psychological stress. Or just don't drink to extremes. That's the simple answer. That's the solution to all of this. A hangover can even be used as a bonding exercise where people can discuss their previous night of drinking with friends and even cope with feelings of anxiety together, says this article by Craig Gunn, who is a lecturer in psychological science at the University of Bristol. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valentino, the last place on earth. So yes, be moderate with your overindulgences. In other words, that doesn't work. Don't overindulge, I guess, is the thing. Outside a cafe anyway, on this Sunday. Thank you for listening to the show. If you'd like to chime in about anything we covered there, and chiming, I hope when you do chime, that you sound wonderful with your chimes and your chiming thoughts that are so chiming. 336mm daily, 3 plus 3 equals 6 as in Mike Matthews, daily as in what this podcast will try to be. I couldn't do one yesterday. I got interrupted by life again. And I don't know, have I even talked about this yet? I think maybe I'll talk about this later. I'm going to talk about this later. I don't feel comfortable talking about this. I talk about a lot on this podcast, but this particular thing, okay, I'll talk about it. No. Yes. No. All right. Well, later this week, how about that? How about I tease that we'll discuss something very interesting that happened on my Saturday, earlier in the day, before all the wonderful fun and mirth with Kevin and his lovely lady friend. We'll discuss that. And Kevin, by the way, was pointing out to me, I need to go down that weird rabbit hole of music information that I usually do, that I haven't done that lately. and I need to do that more often. Kevin also said that he will at some point do this podcast and take care of all the little sound elements that you hear, like A-Frame saying, here's today's podcast picture, and do my cousin Anki saying, Mike's Daily Podcast, and all the rest. He's going to do it all in a podcast someday, which I will happily upload to mikesdailypodcast.com and all the other places to listen to it. So one of the things that led to my mom's passing was heart issues. And it is very important that heart disease is a thing that could affect you, especially in the fact, in the sense, the truth, that in the U.S., heart disease kills someone every 36 seconds. And it's the cause of 25% of all deaths. Now, if you'd like to dispute that, you know what? If you've done any anti-vaxxing rhetoric lately on the radio, if you're one of those, or on a podcast, if you're one of those types of people that like to broadcast misinformation and say how the vaccine will kill, well, maybe this is your next step, is to say and tell me that, nope, there's no such thing as heart disease. We all live forever. We're all immortal. Well, nope. Fact is, it is a thing. It is the cause of 25% of all deaths. About 660,000 Americans die from heart disease annually, including my mom is unfortunately in that number now, making it the leading cause of death across most racial groups, regardless of gender. The most common type of heart disease among Americans is coronary artery disease. And that also got my dad. So that decreases blood flow to the heart. The condition can cause heart attacks and even lead to heart failure. There's a lot of lifestyle factors that increase your chance of developing heart disease, like excessive body weight, drinking too much, in connection with what we were talking about earlier in this podcast, and something my mom did, unfortunately, smoking. There are many ways to reduce your risk of heart disease as well, such as staying active, following a low-fat diet, cut out the butter, cut out the cheese, cut out the pizza, pizza makers, cut out just all the fat, and maintain a healthy weight. In fact, and I am not at the healthiest weight, so this is words to me as well. According to the American Heart Association and the Cleveland Clinic, 80% to 90% of heart disease may be preventable. And I mention Cleveland because I pulled this from STI Today. And that is in the St. Louis, is why it's called it's STL Today, sorry. STL Today, St. Louis Post-Dispatch. So there we are, Cleveland, and all that was mentioned in this article. So because they did some research on that helped with this, but 80% to 90% of heart disease may be preventable. High blood pressure not only increases your risk for heart disease, but it can also lead to strokes. High blood pressure or hypertension is a common issue in Americans, and that affects half of the adults in America. Many struggle to control their hypertension, and it's estimated that only 1 in 4 adults with high blood pressure are managing their condition through lifestyle changes and medication. To better control your risk for heart disease, check your blood pressure regularly. This simple measurement can be done by a physician or with an at-home blood pressure monitor. Also try to control high cholesterol. The CDC, anti-vaxxers mistrust the CDC, so they're not going to listen to what I'm about to say, but roughly 38% of Americans, according to the CDC, live with high cholesterol. Cholesterol can come from 2 sources: blood cholesterol, which is produced by your liver, and dietary cholesterol, which comes from consuming meat, seafood, or dairy products. But Mike, I thought you're supposed to eat seafood to help your heart. Yes, but it's not all seafood. It's some. It's plus a lot of people, when they eat seafood, they have it deep fried, so that doesn't help. You want the salmon, you want sardines, you want mackerel, high in good fats. If you're eating those type of fish, that's okay, or it can help you with your heart. That's what my doctor told me. High cholesterol can stem from a number of risk factors, including family history, smoking, there that is again, physical inactivity, and being overweight, type 2 diabetes, and a diet that contains lots of trans and saturated fats. That can also contribute. To avoid high blood cholesterol, you can limit your alcohol, stop smoking, eat a balanced diet, and stay physically active. Of course, consult your doctor and a physician, an expert with all of this. Smoking is bad for your health. In 2019, 34.1 million Americans regularly smoked cigarettes. Like high blood cholesterol and blood pressure, smoking tobacco can put you at risk for heart disease, and it can also lead to an addiction to tobacco, so quitting can be challenging. Counseling and medication can help you break your addiction and manage withdrawal symptoms. So also diabetes. There are several types of diabetes, including type 1 diabetes. It's a chronic issue and a serious health condition that impacts millions of people annually. And it occurs when your body can't move sugar from your bloodstream into cells. Type 2 diabetes, that's gestational diabetes. And pre-diabetes, typically those who are overweight over the age of 45 and have a family history of diabetes are at greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Regularly checking in with your physician is also an important aspect of living with diabetes. You can help maintain healthy blood glucose levels, and also you want to help with heart disease, manage your weight. Excessive weight gain can lead to a host of chronic health issues. Along with heart disease, there's cancer, diabetes, and being overweight is a complex problem. It can stem from a number of issues, ranging from genetics and health issues to diet and exercise. Now check this out. Maintaining a healthy weight can start with consulting your physician and a nutritionist. Both can help you develop strategies to create and stick with a nutritious eating plan, and it can be done. It can be done. Being physically active can also help with managing your weight. The CDC recommends that most adults get 150 minutes of exercise per week. That's what they recommend. 150 minutes of exercise per week. So what is that? 30 minutes for 5 days, at least? And it's a 7-day week? So it can be done. This activity should include aerobics like walking or swimming and strengthening your muscles. Physical inactivity is a huge reason for heart disease. It is a widespread issue across the U.S. You want to know which states particularly it's an issue? You ready? Can you guess? Is California one of them? No. I will tell you in alphabetical order who they are, though. Are you ready? Alabama. That is no shock to me. Being that I lived in Alabama for 2 years, I saw a lot of inactivity going on. But people need to relax. I understand. But too much inactivity is no good. When surveyed, more than 30% of adults from these states said they did not participate in any physical activities outside of their job in the past month. An active lifestyle can not only help you avoid issues like heart disease and type 2 diabetes, but it can help you live longer and improve your mental health. And as I mentioned earlier, excessive drinking. While some believe that a glass of red wine a day is good for your heart, consuming too much alcohol can lead to a host of negative health effects. because heavy drinking is hard on your body. Not only can it result in heart disease, but it can weaken your immune system and increase the risk of cancer, stroke, high blood pressure, alcohol poisoning. Drinking excessively is also known as binge drinking. The CDC defines as 4 or more drinks for women and over 5 for men. Drinking too much alcohol can also lead to addiction or risky behaviors, such as driving while intoxicated. The Dietary Guidelines for Americans advises adult women to have no more than 1 drink a day and for men to have only 2 drinks or less a day. And what also can lead to heart disease is an unhealthy diet. Knowing the foods to eat and how much to eat can be confusing. The CDC recommends that this little easy tip to remember, the more naturally colorful your plate, the better. And the Dietary Guidelines for Americans recommends that adults limit their daily caloric intake and eat a variety of proteins, vegetables, and whole grains. A variety of proteins. You mean I can't eat chicken every single day? No. And the chickens went, yay. And the vegetables, whole grains. Whole grains. How do you get the whole grains, Mike? Well, isn't there like whole grain bread these days that's popular? But whole grains. We'll have to look more into that at some other time. But it is important to incorporate lots of fiber, minerals, and vitamins into your diet, which you can find in dark green vegetables, nuts, and fruit. And you want to limit sugars, salt, and alcoholic beverages. However, it's important to keep in mind that it's beneficial to maintain balance and enjoy comfort foods in moderation. And this according to STL Today, St. Louis Today. Excellent. St. Louis Post-Dispatch. So there you go. What do you think about any of that? You can call me 336MM Daily. 3 plus 3 equals 6. MM is in Mike Matthews Daily, isn't what this podcast tries to be and gets interrupted sometimes. And finally, this interesting bit of news about Dua Lipa. She had a lot of big hit songs in the past couple of years. Had a quote-unquote duet with Elton John, even though it was not a duet. It just lifted parts of songs that Elton had sung, and then she re-sang some of his songs, little bits and pieces of the songs. Oh, the NATO countries have a green light to send fighter jets to the Ukraine. Or to Ukraine, and that had been a thing that they were not allowed to do. They were avoiding that. So, did Dua Lipa rip off her biggest song? A new lawsuit claims the answer is yeah. Article Sound System has filed a lawsuit against Lipa, accusing her of ripping off their song Live Your Life. And they say she ripped it off for her song Levitating. And is that the one that... What's the one... Is that the one that also sounds like the NXS song, Need You Tonight? The band's lawsuit accuses Lipa of copyright infringement, claiming it's highly unlikely that Levitating was created independently. The Article Sound System song came out in 2017, while Lipa's Levitating debuted in 2020, part of her second studio album, Future Nostalgia. And that got nominated for Album of the Year at the Grammys. And it topped Billboard's 2021 Hot 100 Songs chart. The lawsuit is asking for damages and any profits Lipa, Warner Brothers, and others have made off the song. The claim comes after Taylor Swift was similarly hit with a copyright infringement lawsuit over her song Shake It Off, though that case has more to do with the lyrics than the sound. Songwriters Sean Hall and Nathan Butler claimed Swift ripped off their song Players Gone Play, which, like Swift's track, includes the phrase "Players gonna play and haters gonna hate." Swift's team has dismissed a lawsuit, but a judge has said it may proceed to a trial. Olivia Rodrigo has also faced allegations of plagiarism, leading her to add songwriting credits for artists including Swift, whom she has cited as an influence. She said it's disappointing when people take things out of context to try to discredit any young woman's work, says Olivia Rodrigo. And this from Yahoo News. Brendan Morrow wrote this from The Week, found on Yahoo News. So, and that would be yahoo.com. Yahoo, hey, I don't know. It's tough to be a creator of anything in this world. And yours truly tries to do a podcast trying to explore what exactly is ballot harvesting, and YouTube thinks I'm saying that I agree that ballot harvesting existed, and I'm like, no, I just want to know what the heck it is. I don't think the 2020 elections were a fraud. Sorry to people that, well, my mom, for one, I think thought that they were a fraud, but she did get vaccinated, though. She didn't think it was a huge conspiracy by Biden to mind control everyone. She agreed, no, you need a vaccine. You need to be vaccinated. And she did not die of COVID-19. But yes, it is something people think about a lot in this world, and there's a lot of misinformation. Just be careful. Just remember to fact check and all that. We're outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley 10, the last place on earth. Look who's here. Hi, Mike. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How y'all doing?
It's a Disgruntled Fiddle Player, tell you what. You know, you talk about beer, and you talk about horses, and you talk about vaccines. Mike, I don't want to talk about any of that stuff.
But your wife, Benita, has a horse, Nilly.
Yeah, I know.
And what? You don't want to talk about that? Because, you know, talk about Toby Keith singing about beer for his horses. You could talk about that.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about something else. Do you want to talk about me? Me?
Oh, I get it. That's a Toby Keith song.
Next show, it'll be the wonderful Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley. But we were saying hi to one more person.
Hello, Mike. I make the delicious root beer. Has to
Wow. Okay, thank you. I could sure use some root beer. Yes. Oh, the podcast picture is going to be from Florida. I forgot to mention that. Yes, my recent trip. So many interesting things happen, and so many more interesting things are happening, and, well, can't go into it too much right now, but it's all very interesting.
Drink it right now, I'll cut you.
I had some. Gosh. Wonderful root beer. Next show, it'll be the people I mentioned just moments ago, and you can chime in 336MM Daily. Other ways to reach me, here's A. Frank.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!